And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PSBTA Technical Solutions webinar series. My name is Martha Ellis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, or the PSBTA. As an association, our primary objective is to work as an end-user advocate for all primary and extended primary FirstNet users. This includes all first responders and service providers who support response, mitigation, and recovery efforts during emergencies. We've created this webinar series in an effort to bring you the most current and accurate information on all aspects of broadband use for public safety personnel, including the latest developments in technology specific to the ecosystem. Today's webinar is the 6th in a series of 12, specifically designed to not only showcase the network, but many of the FirstNet approved applications which can be found in the FirstNet app catalog. The FirstNet built with AT&T Lean-In webinars are all about helping you optimize the FirstNet network, assuring the highest level of preparedness and reliable communications. If you have missed any of the previous presentations, please feel free to visit thepsbta.org to watch the archived webinars. Before we get started, I have a couple housekeeping items for our attendees. You have all been automatically muted to reduce background noise. Any questions should be submitted directly to us through the questions function, which is located at the bottom of the menu on the right side of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of our presentations. We will attempt to answer as many questions as possible, yet still stay within our allotted hour. We will follow up with any questions that do not get answered during the live portion of the webinar when we finish up today. If you have further questions when the webinar is over, we also provide the emails for the presenters at the end so you can follow up at your convenience. Also in the panel to your right of your screen, I would like to point out that there are handouts available that should be downloaded prior to the conclusion of the webinar. Today's public safety professionals have a lot on their minds and plenty to prepare for. We are seeing a notable increase in mass gatherings across our country, some of which become quite energized. Today, we'll be discussing 3 different applications from the FirstNet app catalog that help first responders provide the highest level of situational awareness and interoperability when needed most. Our presenters today are Nathan Whittaker, Director of Solutions with Vizsafe, Alexander Popof, Chief Operating Officer for Visual Labs, and John Gaster, CEO for KSI Data Sciences. In bringing the FirstNet app catalog to life, they'll discuss their software capabilities, give demonstrations, and share use case scenarios to help you make critical application decisions for your agency. We also have Steve Devine, Director for FirstNet Strategy and Policy, who will take questions on FirstNet, our nation's most reliable wireless public safety network, and the linchpin in successfully leveraging these kinds of tools. With that, I'm going to turn the time over to Nathan Whittaker to get us started with our webinar on scene support during public gatherings and unexpected behavior.
Great, thank you, Martha. All right, and thanks to everyone else on the phone, my fellow app catalog colleagues and in FirstNet, especially as well, for the opportunity to speak to you as a solution that can support you and essentially the public that you support in your mission to protect them. So as Martha mentioned, my name is Nathan Whittaker, Director of Solutions here for Vizsafe. And what I'll present to you today is our Geo-Aware Network application and platform. And just to preface kind of where the technology sits in some of the technologies you may already have deployed and are using or interested in. Yes, we are a technology, but the basis of our value and the way you would use it is in communications and information sharing. And with that, a focus on bringing the mobile device and the power of the mobile device with high-powered cameras, GPS location, and really intuitive interface to the forefront of your operations. And FirstNet being on the forefront of that sort of what is a modern approach to public safety and law enforcement communications, allowing these mobile devices to be more reliable and dependent on with their 5G network. So before I get into kind of more about who we are and what we do, I'm going to start with just an overview of this document that Department of Homeland Security released in 2018, which to give perspective, we started developing our technology back in 2014. So before this document came out, but when it came out, our jaws kind of dropped because it was so in line with sort of the story and sort of the operational picture that we've been trying to paint for our customers, and that we've really designed our technology around. And it's also very, obviously very relevant to this discussion today. So I'll go through this real quickly. But essentially what DHS outlines is that these public gatherings, whether it's at a stadium, at even houses of worship, protests like we're seeing a lot these days, et cetera, what they categorize as soft targets in crowded places are a very attractive target for bad actors. And what they outline really is number one, protecting these is really a shared mission, not just for public safety and law enforcement like yourself, but for really everybody involved in those events, state and local, private security, private business owners, as well as the general public. So one of the things that they recommend, which falls in line with FirstNet and with our technology, is a best practice of being able to share situational awareness, not just within public safety and law enforcement, but across all these different stakeholders and departments that are really poised to help protect the general public. And obviously that includes the general public as well, where I'm sure as we know, there's been phrases, see something, say something, and those of us with good eyes and ears that can recognize bad actors are really poised in the best place to be able to recognize that, and giving them a means to communicate to public safety and law enforcement or security is a really powerful tool. So hopefully that sets the scene for kind of the approach that we're taking to information sharing and supporting these events. And how we do it from a technology perspective, again, the product is called GeoAware Network, and really the goal is to take all of the technologies that are being used and bring them into a common operating picture, similar to what you might see in emergency operations centers, fusion centers, or just in command centers, and bring those together but also make them available with mobile devices, which I think is sort of the unique part of our technology, is that, hey, there's a lot of great assets out there, CCTV cameras, drones are becoming more popular, body cams, incident reporting, in mapping, and that's great when it's in a command center. And typically what we found is dispatch out and communication is really radio based. So our goal was to say, hey, how do we take that and how can we bring all those intelligence assets to the mobile device, to those in the field, so that when there is response to either a high threat emergency or even just sort of low threat day-to-day response, how can that become more of a collaborative effort, and how can it be more effective? So our technology is, like I said, it's available on mobile devices. It's software as a service, so really anywhere in the world with a cellular or a Wi-Fi connection, it works. Any web browser, and the 5 different buckets that are of sort of features that our technology provides is through the mobile device, incident reporting, live streaming from the mobile device, as well as receiving information to that device, mapping, which includes outdoor satellite imagery as well as indoor mapping, incident management. So hey, when folks are sending information back and forth, what's the management workflow around that? Sensor integration, so CCTV cameras I mentioned, other sensors and other technologies that you'll even hear on this webinar today, or that you might already be using, we can bring into this common operating picture and push out to mobile users. And then analytics around all of this, as far as how well our operations going, how effective, and where you might be able to do better in the future. So this slide just sort of talks about, again, like DHS mentioned, this, the job of protecting the public isn't just public safety and law enforcement's job, but it's really everyone's. And the way we've built sort of our permission structure and how the app and how different user groups can be deployed was really in the interest of connecting multiple departments. So internal operations with public safety and law enforcement, supporting them, whether it's at an event or just in day-to-day, across business owners, and then really allowing the public through use of our app, embedded in other apps, similar to what you might have seen in a 311 app, maybe in your town, allowing them to send information, geolocated with visual and other information into this operating picture as well. So really creating this environment where everybody has the means to contribute information into this operating picture for one another. So I'll quickly just take you through some of the features for lack of a demo. However, please don't hesitate to reach out for me. I can show you a live demo of all of this, and even some of our great customers that are turnkey in showcasing all this functionality. I have permission to show you that might be similar to yours. So the first thing I'll just show you is mobile reporting and communications. So through the app, users have the ability to send picture, video. It's all geolocated and mapped, categorized in channels, which could represent different types of incidences or different groups. And that's really what kind of connects these different departments in being able to share information. We have a feature called Go Live Streaming, which allows you to stream live from your mobile device. So similar to a body cam. And this can be a one-to-many stream. And chat messaging, which is something I know a lot of folks use with WhatsApp or other apps. But again, our goal is to sort of take these functionality and bring it into one app. Mapping and tracking. So we do outdoor mapping, is innate in the technology through Google Maps. But we can also do indoor mapping as well. And again, all this information, whether it's a sensor alert that went off, whether it's your CCTV cameras, and as well as user positioning. So users with the mobile app, these could be other personnel on your team. This could be even private. Think about it, maybe a school university scenario where in event of emergency, students could open the app and you could see where these folks are located and responding in relation to the incident. These can all be mapped as well. Cameras can be streamed from the maps on mobile and web. So again, really sort of playing into, hey, creating this common operating picture of all my personnel, where the incident is, live streaming cameras and other alerts, all in this same picture, and again, shared with those responsible for responding. I did touch again on sensor alerts and camera streaming. So you probably have a CCTV camera network, and that you probably have an app for that as well. But again, the goal is to reduce the number of apps that you need to use to access information and bring it into the same operating picture for situational awareness. So we can bring those in. And again, there's a lot of great technologies out there that are being deployed at different departments. I know we're working with the fire department in particular, who's deploying drones, which come with their own camera and their own management system, but we're able to bring those into this platform where they can track their users. They can stream live from their drones and track their drones as well. Other things like gunshot detection are popular in cities too. And we actually have 18,000 public traffic cameras already in the system. So these are DOT highway cameras, which, obviously in lieu of, having private CCTV camera networks at your disposal, shared by businesses or private operations, those traffic cameras can be valuable when routing to a response. And of course, there's incident management around this. So there's a whole workflow and some dashboarding you can do. Now, if you have your own incident management system, you obviously have a PSAP. We can integrate into that as well. So it really sort of hopefully takes the technology you're already using and makes it even more valuable when it's integrated into these other capabilities. And again, some analytics around this can be done through heat mapping and just in other data. So, again, this slide just demonstrates again, the public reporting. So, if your organization is using this, one great example that we've had is at NFL stadiums, where private security operations, even their maintenance custodial, are reporting on this app. Security might see all the channels and all the information. They're able to actually push that to first responders, law enforcement, EMT, So those departments don't see all this other day-to-day stuff, but in the need, they're able to see that incident that's been pushed, geolocated, and they're able to flip on all that information for them in real time to help first responders and law enforcement in their aid of the private organization. And then adding the public reporting, whether it's through our app, through a branded app for the city, through a private institution app, we're able to bring our same reporting functionality into it to allow the public to respond and send information into that operating picture. And then the last thing that I will disclose to you guys. So what you just saw was the GeoAware network. That's really our core application. But over the past 90 days or so, we've developed and started deploying a touchless health screening kiosk. The goal of this kiosk is to take temperature, heart rate, respiration, and really reduce risk in a different way than has been done over the years, whether it's through metal detection, weapons detection, and other screenings. Looking forward at this, I hate to say the new normal, but new best practice for risk reduction for cities and for private organizations. Looking at health as another one of those risk factors, we've built a kiosk based on an application that allows you to not diagnose, but to recognize signs of risk for fever and other abnormalities to help visitors and to help the public feel that when they're on the other side of that kiosk, just like they would at a metal detector, to know that everyone on the other side of that is not showing signs of illness that could be possibly contagious. So that's something that we're really excited about, and that we've started deploying all over the world actually. But at least in the U.S., it's been a lot of great response in building public confidence, as well as again reducing risk at public gatherings. So I'd be happy to talk to you about that further as well and demonstrate. And then just lastly, again through DHS, we're Safety Act designated, and as you know, we're in the FirstNet catalog, which we're really proud of, and we're really happy to be working with FirstNet to bring these new technologies to the forefront with you. And that concludes my presentation. Again, I'd love to speak to you individually if you feel like any of these capabilities might help you support your public. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alexander with Visual Labs.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that, Nathan. Really good information there, and obviously very timely with the issues of on-scene support on public gatherings. So, anywhere, I'm Alexander, as Nathan said, with Visual Labs, and we're going to talk about smartphone body cameras here. And you may be wondering, well, wait a minute, I don't quite understand. We're talking about on-scene support during public gatherings. How does body cameras fit into that? And especially when you see our tagline here, the body camera company that does not make body cameras. So wait a minute, and all I ask for all you participants, bear with me here. Hopefully in the next 5 or 8 minutes or so, you'll understand it a little bit better. So first, I want to just talk about a paradigm shift in kind of the hardware body camera business. You've got, in today's environment, you've got body cameras and docking stations and digital cameras, audio recorders, AVL units, wiring, and all that can be replicated within a smartphone. And so, with the Visual Labs application and a smartphone, and we say the single purpose hardware being replaced by connected smart devices, and the connection there is really the key with this whole FirstNet connectivity. So before I get too much into it, I want to show you just a quick video. It's about 90 seconds or so, just to give you a sense of how the body camera solution works, and we'll go through this. So Martha, when you're ready, this is a video from Henry County, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, just a short video. So go ahead and key that up.
In today's times. It's important, I feel, for a police officer to have a body camera just to help people see that there's more than one side of a story. It's very durable, it clings on to right there, and it doesn't move with whatever action I'm taking throughout the day.
Well, I use the body camera usually on traffic stops. We do a lot of traffic stops during the day.
There's a big red button on the top, and all I do is press it once.
Camera recording started.
It's a really wide lens, so it grabs the area pretty much, so you're not having to pan back and forth to try to capture someone who may be talking, you know, to this side of you or to that side of it. It'll pretty much grab the entire area.
Hey, officer. I'm Officer Maddox with the Henry County Police Department. I stopped you because I noticed when you came to the intersection.
So if you take a photograph, it documents where it's taken, and then the officer can enter the case number for the photo or video. All that is done right there from the cellular device. When the officer records a video in the field, it is immediately uploaded to the cloud and is accessible by the officer, supervisors, or anyone that wants to review the video out in the field.
The Visual Labs website is extremely easy to use. It's all within a couple of clicks, and it's right there.
If you add on all these applications that now Visual Labs provides, such as digital camera, GPS, body camera, and they can use a cell phone, well, now you're getting more bang for your buck, as I say.
It's a real good system. It may be one more piece of equipment, but it's just the one piece of equipment that makes sense.
Okay, hopefully that explained a little bit better as to what's going on. And you might still be thinking, wait a minute, smartphones, body cameras, I don't quite understand this on-scene support. So again, bear with me, we're going to get to that. But just real quickly, Visual Labs, we're a software company. So we have a application that goes on the smartphone, and that's paired with the back-end evidence management website. And that's where we can get this live positional awareness, live situational awareness in these on-scene support situations during, public gatherings, whether they're planned or unplanned. So stepping back, the application that I've talked about that goes on the smartphone is FirstNet certified. So we passed a lot of extra rigorous tests from the standpoint of the FirstNet process. And you can see these adjectives on the right-hand side and descriptions that it's been a rigorous review process. It's a highly secure, high-quality application passing stringent tests. And the reason I like to highlight this is these are not our words. These are the words of AT&T and the FirstNet authorities of what you need to be to become FirstNet certified. So we focus on security very heavily, CJIS compliant, everything that you would expect from a law enforcement or first responder, fire, EMS system for first responders. Real-time positional awareness, again, for on-scene support during public gatherings, you need this real-time positional awareness. So with the GPS that's built into the smartphone, you get that. You can see where every one of your people are in real time, and you would see that moving. This is a sample of what one of our agencies did. This is obviously just a static shot. Same with the real-time situational awareness, live streaming. So this is a satellite view, Google Map here, but you would actually see the actual live stream going on. So, whether it's, keeping track of your own folks or the public, very easy to do that with this connected device again. So I'm going to talk about a couple of situations about public gatherings. You have some where I call this events planned well in advance, like the Super Bowl. So we've been fortunate enough to be part of the last 3 Super Bowls and deploying our solution there for real-time positional awareness, real-time situational awareness. Obviously very, heavy crowd, need that good connectivity. So here in Minneapolis, you have an officer who was wearing our body camera, and again, being able to live stream. And we did this both as tabletop exercises, and then during certain events, knock on wood, there were not, any major critical security events, but there were some that required the live streaming. Again, in Atlanta, a little hard to see, but there's a smartphone body camera. This is on, I was actually wearing it as well. And then in Miami, not too long ago, seems like years ago, but earlier this year after the game. So we've been able to deploy in very planned gatherings, obviously planning well in advance with a lot of people there and using this connectivity for that real-time situational and positional awareness. Then you have events that are planned, but I call them spontaneously planned, potentially on social media. So here we have CNN demonstration in Atlanta. And one of our customers is the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, and they actually had some of their game wardens pulled off the lakes and the rivers around downtown Atlanta on their ATVs, and they were providing this common operating picture, sort of like Nathan described, to a command center live streaming from the body cameras. Unexpected, you have people, you know, in an event, you know, they're downtown Atlanta, those game wardens typically aren't in downtown. Here's another situation, you know, and I'll let people, any of you attendees want to put a guess in your question panel what this is, but this took place just recently, and you can see, actually a little hard to see, but there's a smartphone body camera there. Here's another smartphone body camera there. Here's another smartphone body camera there. This is one of our customers, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, actually protecting the home of Derek Chauvin, who was the officer at the height of the George Floyd issue, and this is prior to his arrest. But you had protesters out there, and so the Washington County Sheriff's Office had to protect his house because he happened to live in Washington County, Minnesota. But again, very unusual situation. We have one more video here, and then I'll wrap things up. But this is what I call a normal event, but in abnormal times. And so this is, again, this happens to also be the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, but this is a little lighthearted video to show, you know, what's happening in today's world, how real-time, you know, management of this on-scene support during public gatherings might take place. So Martha, if you're ready, just go ahead and tee up that video, and we'll play the second video here.
Hey guys, it's all right that you guys are anchored out here together. Y'all got to make sure you stay apart, okay? At least 6 feet. That's the whole reason we're out here, is making sure people are staying apart.
I got you.
All right.
Hey, we just kicked those other people out.
Which ones? Oh, the ones that just left? We appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to make sure this executive order is abided by. So I realize everybody's trying to get out and do stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Just try to keep a distance.
Yeah, we're all.
All right, and so again, just kind of a lighthearted video, but trying to enforce the governor's social distancing, which we hear so much about. But just very quickly about Visual Labs, again, we're focused on the body cameras, which could be live streaming. We also have an in-car camera solution, interview room solution that, because we're software-based, not hardware-based, saves tremendous amount of money for agencies out there. And so hopefully now when, you know, I say, okay, we were the body camera company that does not make body cameras, and we're talking about body cameras, you sort of tie that all back into the on-scene support during public gatherings and unexpected behavior, unexpected gatherings, things like that. So hopefully it made sense. Here's my contact information. I know Martha will show it at the end as well. And so feel free to, you know, shoot any questions in via that chat panel. So anyway, for now, I'm going to turn it over to John Gaster, who's with KSI Data Sciences, and he'll give us his presentation about the on-scene support during public gatherings.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Alexander. That was a really good presentation. And it really follows a theme that I'm going to try and pick up on here. I'm going to focus really on drones. As we know, drones have moved from becoming pretty exotic, unusual, interesting machines to really everyday tools. And just as an example of that, there is a recent survey out from drone responders from the spring of this year that just shows that drones are becoming more and more ubiquitous. They're mainly used in public safety by either fire or law enforcement. A lot are local. Drone prices obviously have come down from the exotic 500,000 to 10,000 to 5,000 to 3,000, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about capabilities. And that growth shows no sign of slowing. So with the growth, the mission types that are being employed are also growing exponentially. So obviously incident response, search and rescue, surveillance, mapping, crime scenes, bringing drones into the ecosystem is proving to be effective, valuable, adds a layer of safety, adds a layer of situational awareness, and is obviously becoming a critical piece of the puzzle. Talking for 1 second about drone capabilities, and I have a brief video here. Martha, if you would like to tee this up, it really just shows a couple of capabilities that were available mainly to the military 10 years ago, but right now are available on almost every consumer level drone. I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about what you're seeing here. So here in firefighting, you're looking at a thermal camera. Obviously, the fire departments among you that are out there are becoming more and more familiar with this. But those firefighters are actually in thermal on the right and in ordinary video on the left. And as you can see, as they come out of the smoke, they are giving a whole series of different viewpoints and different information through this technology. The second piece I want to talk to you about just for a second is the incredible zoom capabilities. This is again a camera on a $10,000 drone that 10 years ago would have been $100,000. And you can zoom in from well over a mile away. You can read labels on hazmat, on hazardous materials. You can hone in on incidents. You can really take a look at more or less anything you need from a distance, which of course makes life incredibly safer from a perspective of visual observance. One major issue, video by itself has no context. And I know you've seen part of that in the presentations that went before me. It's absolutely critical. I'm looking at a video still here of actually Danville, Virginia. It's a very nice video, a lot of drone footage around it. But if you are on scene, you're unfamiliar with the neighborhood, maybe you've come from out of town, maybe you've never been there before, just viewing video doesn't necessarily help. And so it's critically important to bring in context. It's critically important to bring in collaboration, and it's critically important to bring in speed into the air to be able to respond as much as possible. We've been out there for probably the last 5 to 8 years. Before that, we spent some time in the DoD with video. So our core is, how do you move video from drones and other remote robots? A lot of you have ground robots. A lot of you have bomb disposal robots, underwater robots for search and rescue. And really, rather like Nathan's solution, the goal is to bring that video and telemetry into anybody that needs it, wherever they are, enable them to collaborate, either through chat or through audio, enable people to invite new people on an ad hoc basis. You can't have any paywalls. Clearly, you need security around this. And critically as well, the systems need to be easy to deploy, fast to deploy, and they need to work across really any kind of available network. So I'd like to give you a quick demonstration of what we call Mission Keeper. It's Martha, if you're ready, if you'd like to just run this video. It's designed to be incredibly easy to use, incredibly fast in the air, but by the same token, it is also designed to be very sophisticated in the back end. this is a piece of drone footage that was shot. And as you can see, what we have on the left-hand side, you have an instant understanding of who is involved in this mission. And as I said, you can invite new people, you can bring in ad hoc users. Our goal is never restrict the number of users. You will never hit a message coming up saying you haven't paid your license fee, you've only got 20 users. You have a chat window. More importantly, of course, you get the visual on any device. And also importantly, you can bring in multiple streams. So multiple streams from multiple robots, multiple drones. And the idea is that you're getting a view of where the drone is and where is it looking. Martha, if we can go straight into the second video, we also think it's critically important. Again, like Alexander's view, you need to be able to see what's going on from multiple viewpoints. So like Alexander's body cams, Nathan's CCTV and other services, we feel it's important to be able to stream live from the phone, bring it into the same mission, cover it in the same security as everything else, make sure everybody knows exactly where everybody is. And from that perspective, we try to make sure that, I'm sorry, here we are. We try to make sure that everybody has a view, everybody has situational awareness. One of the issues that is peculiar to drones is that there is an awful lot of regulation about how you get a drone in the air. There's airspace considerations, there's safety, there's checklists, there's pilot certification. There are all sorts of regulations around drone flights that all mitigate against getting a drone in the air quickly. If you show up on a scene and you have a small drone, you still need to have various authorizations. And so for that reason, we've integrated directly with GE and their Eros system, which really allows you to get in the air in a few minutes. It directly connects to the FAA, it directly connects to get approvals, it shows you what the airspace is doing, it allows you to run through your checklists. And so really just a piece of unique drone operating feature we figured was really, really important. And really just to kind of sum up, I've tried to keep this presentation pretty short. I can obviously talk about drones and video and data for an awfully long time. The best thing is always to see these devices in action. There are drones ranging in price from a few $100s to $100,000. They're used for different applications, but critically, all of the systems surrounding the drones need to fit into the puzzle. They are part of a puzzle. They are just another sensor. So in summary, they've got to get in the air fast. Systems around them have to be easy to use. You obviously have to be able to collaborate with anyone, anywhere, anytime. And that includes people that you may not even consider collaborating with when you start a mission. If you're operating a bomb disposal robot and you see something you don't understand, you've never seen before, you may want to invite an expert from another agency or another jurisdiction to participate in that mission and give you some support. Obviously, lots of context. Everything has to be highly secure. And again, part of the FirstNet infrastructure delivers that, as well as our end-to-end encryption. Talking of network, our system has been designed to be very network aware. FirstNet is being rolled out. It's going to be fantastic. It's already fantastic, but there are places where network coverage is incredibly spotty. We've designed a system that is very light on video, will stream from almost any environment, give us a small network, and we'll make use of it. And of course, you have unlimited scale. You can bring in unlimited numbers of feeds. You can have unlimited numbers of viewers. And with that, That really concludes what I would like to talk about today. So I would like to hand back to Martha and to manage the rest of the session this morning. Thank you, Martha.
Fantastic. Wow, all of those presentations were really quite amazing. And just in the context of situational awareness and so many of the unpredictable situations that we're all being up against in public safety these days, this is really fantastic technology. And of course, you know, being able to utilize it and leverage it with a considerably higher level of confidence with FirstNet is going to be a game changer across this country. So with that, is everybody up? Can we get everybody up on camera and with mics open for the Q&A? Thank you. So I'm going to start with Steve Devine because we have not heard from him yet today. I was going to ask you, Steve, if you could just give our audience a brief overview of FirstNet and how we've actually arrived where we are today, and maybe a glimpse into the future.
Sure. Thanks, Martha. A great presentation. Thanks to Visual Labs and KSI Data and GeoAware. This just other great examples of FirstNet's viability in the marketplace, how it's changing the way public safety is supported and does its work. After a number of events, 9/11 and Katrina, Congress determined that the public safety needed a single nationwide public safety broadband network. Legislation was passed. The FirstNet Authority was created. The FirstNet Authority put together requirements for such a network and issued a request for proposal, of which AT&T was awarded in March of 2017. 3.5 years, just barely 3.5 years. We're well into this work supporting public safety. I'm happy to report 1.5 million FirstNet connections as of today and growing, representing users from over 13,000 agencies. 150 and growing number of FirstNet ready devices today in play. 125 and growing applications in the FirstNet app catalog. We support a number of deployable efforts, satellite Colts, cell on wings or cows, as well as an aerostat, which we call FirstNet One, that are deployable resources that provide coverage in areas where we need it. John had made mention that earlier that there's still coverage gaps, so we deploy resources based on FirstNet customer needs, both coverage and capacity. And in 2019, and this number is probably going to be exceeded in 2020, in 2019 we had over 450 requests for those deployables to be brought out to areas in the country in response to incidents, critical events, hurricanes, tornadoes, outages, anything that resulted in the impact to FirstNet and its public safety customers. So we continue to evolve and to continue to grow, but just 3.5 years into a long-term contract with the government, we're pleased and we're ahead of schedule and looking forward to the continual support of first responders.
Fantastic, and I'm glad you mentioned the Response Operations Group, or the ROG. Clearly an integral part of the entire program that FirstNet is providing to first responders. But along that line, I would like you to talk a little bit about a category called extended primary and how those extended primary users could possibly factor into this mass gathering discussion that we're having.
Great question. FirstNet users are really broken up into two categories. There's primary users, police, fire, EMS, 911 PSAPs, and emergency management. There's a much broader definition of what's called an extended primary user, which is a class of users that support first responders. A great example of that is Department of Transportation is a FirstNet user under the extended primary model that would assist police and fire at a vehicular accident on scene with regard to getting the road clear. Utilities, when there's a wire down, can also support that. So an extended primary classification is a group of users that, while it may not be their sole purpose, they have a role in supporting first responders as well. And that's a very broad category of folks who, in parts of their day-to-day activities, they can support first responders. They would be classified as extended primary users. And both of those users are capable of being uplifted into a higher priority based on an incident scene. So similar to what some of the discussions we mentioned earlier today in the presentations, the ability to look at the scene with the situational awareness on the scene and notice I've got some police and fire, but I've also got some DOT or utilities that can contribute to this space. We can bring them up and make sure they all have the right authority and the right priority and preemption on the network to do what they need to do for the duration of that incident.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, really quick, Steve, if you could, with the probable flooding of the commercial LTE networks during these highly energized mass gatherings, what are the critical features of FirstNet that would drive first responders to want to be on that network during those types of conditions?
Sure, we've all seen the analogy with regard to HOV lanes and roadways and access, but really it's about FirstNet offers priority and preemption services to first responders and those that support first responders in a real-time basis. So the FirstNet customer is always going to have access above the commercial traffic. So when we have these incidents that were so well documented in some of the previous demonstrations and presentations today, when you see these things, some of them aren't planned. And for an officer to have to go and to call somebody or to make some plans to get priorities on their network, in FirstNet, it's automatic. That FirstNet customer is always going to get supported. They're always going to be supported above the commercial traffic. They've got dedicated band 14 access and AT&T's other LTE bands. So that user is always seen by the network as a priority user, and that's always going to happen. And there's many of these instances that were demonstrated earlier. If you don't have time to go call somebody or make a notification or make a request, you want the network to see you as a priority user in real time in the response. So we think that's a critical point. FirstNet offers those capabilities with a physical dedicated core. So we're also obligated to the government to meet some of these requirements. We hear a lot about carriers offering priority and preemption, but their ability to offer that is one thing, but their commitment to it isn't necessarily a contractual one. It may be a marketing plan. So there's a big difference between being obligated to the first responder community and offering services at will.
Yeah, and truly a cavernous difference, I would venture to say. And it is a lovely notion that you don't have to punch in a million numbers to get that priority across the network every time you're trying to make a phone call. So truly appreciated all of the time and effort that's gone into framing this network for public safety. Nathan, I'm going to turn to you really quick here as our time ticks down. One of the questions that came in actually during your presentation, and it must have been when that kiosk was being demoed, are you seeing any bump in your use as far as the application of being used for COVID?
So I assume, maybe for COVID reporting and information gathering. So
the temperature, I think the temperature, right, was the one thing that they really resonated with them. So.
Yeah, so this pandemic and what our customers' response to this pandemic, right, that are typically revolving around supporting public events. The reason we built this kiosk was specifically for that. The symptoms that it does track are specific to COVID-19, right? Temperature, heart rate, respiration. So yeah, I mean, right now it's a major focus for a lot of our customers that for our core platform and even prospects that aren't necessarily worried about incident management right now, but are worried about opening their doors and building public confidence. So yeah, I mean, right now we're seeing a big trend in the desire for this kiosk as an added layer of risk for their security and their visitor management and their guest management process, throughout this pandemic. But again, I think what we're seeing is sort of a step towards, hey, is this health as a public concern going to continue, and is this a good way forward to do that even after the pandemic has kind of receded?
Okay, and with the kiosk, how labor intensive is it? I mean, this is a standalone unit. Does it require anybody being there to operate it, or is it something that a user can actually go up to and use fully without any additional employee usage?
Yeah, so it's completely touchless. It runs on an iPad. It takes the readings just on an iPad. So essentially, the kiosk itself is a stand, for the iPad, really. So it runs on an application. It's completely touchless. It either recognizes your face in a silhouette and does the test, or we have a mobile app for the kiosk itself that you can scan a QR code. This could be your ticket. This could be your access control as well. And runs it through that test and then says, hey, you're not a risk item for health. And also we've recognized that your access control, in the database you have access here, or that you have a ticket. So we're building it into those processes, but really all you need is a smartphone, or for a high throughput configuration, we have it so you can just walk up to it just like any other, in an airport, a metal detector.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fantastic, and clearly great use for that coming into the fall. I imagine you're being contacted by schools and universities, and if you're not, this would be a great gatekeeper for those as well. So thank you, Nathan. I'm going to move on to John very quickly. John, you mentioned the unlimited scaling. What does that mean?
Well, we've seen instances where ad hoc events like we're talking about today create a need for collaboration between lots and lots of different agencies, lots and lots of different players that are typically not in the everyday operation. So we've made sure that the way we've designed our app is that we have an ability to invite what we call guests. So you can have users that are not regular users of the system. You can invite them to a mission because you need their expertise. It could be federal agencies, could be city, state, other sheriffs, other EMS. It could be people with particular expertise, as I mentioned in the presentation, underwater or hazmat. And you can just invite them into the mission and they become instantly part of your team. They're instantly able to see everything everyone else is able to see, and they get all the context and the situational awareness. And at the end of the mission, you can say, thank you very much, that was great, and they no longer have access, because for security reasons, you really need to take users through a registration process if they're going to be regular users. But you can, that's what we mean by unlimited scaling. We don't want to hit a paywall. We don't want to stop you in the middle of an operation because you only bought 10 licenses. So that's really what we mean by that.
I truly believe that is a unique feature to your software. I don't think there are a lot of companies out there that are offering that. And what a great way to make sure that you can, again, break down those silos and put your arms around the broadest group of first responders who can help respond and mitigate to whatever's going on. So, okay, so now you mentioned underwater. So I have to ask you, can you actually stream from underwater ROVs?
You actually cannot stream from the ROV itself, but the ROV is typically tethered. And there is a video stream coming back through the tether to the control station, and we stream from the output from the control station in that case. So we do it in that way. We do the same with robots, whether they were operating wirelessly or tethered. We just make sure if you can give us a video feed, we'll get it to anybody that needs it with the context that they need.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what happens if Chinese drones get banned? Just out of curiosity.
That is a fantastic question. And we are starting to see the emergence of both US and European manufacturers. Certainly, the Chinese ecosystem is strong here in terms of drones. They've been around for a long time. They have fantastic bang for the buck. They're affordable. Their technology is incredible, but there are concerns, founded or unfounded. That's a debate, but there are concerns. And I think if they are, there are more and more agencies looking at more and more solutions that do not involve Chinese systems. And those Chinese manufacturers are also looking at ways to start manufacturing over here, which may or may not meet those security requirements, who knows. But one of the things we do is we make sure that really you can stream from anything. We're platform agnostic. So as the industry moves away from the Chinese manufacturer, if indeed that's the way it goes, we're positioned to support that and make sure there shouldn't be an interruption in the operations of people that are using mixes, and people are using mixes of platforms today.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all that information. Alexander, I'm going to move to you. One of the questions that came in during your video presentation is, what is the actual degree or angle of the camera?
Yeah, sure. That really, because we are using a smartphone, it depends on the smartphone, but many of them today have wide-angle lenses, typically somewhere between 120 and 135 degrees. And so that's very comparable to the, quote, I'll call it the hardware-centric body camera solution. And the smartphones that almost every one of our agencies using, whether it's fire, law enforcement, EMS, are ruggedized phones. And these are dustproof, waterproof, drop-proof, to within certain limits. I'll sort of piggyback on the question you just asked, John, about underwater streaming. We actually have been live streaming from a smartphone, obviously a waterproof, dustproof called IP68 smartphone, and we can actually live stream from a certain reasonable depth. Now, you're not going to go down, 100 feet, but the FirstNet network actually goes a little bit into the subsurface of water, and you can actually get a live stream underwater. So.
I think we need some very definitive testing on that so we can actually talk about that threshold. Well, no, I mean, clearly there are many applications where people are going into the water for various reasons, looking for various things, and that would be extremely helpful, especially if a depth could be established. But that would probably be dependent on so many other factors. But very, very interesting that you brought that up. So. So with your software, Alexander, many questions are going to come up about compliance. You mentioned CGIS. Can you talk just a little bit more about the rigorous steps that had to be taken to make sure your software was going to be compliant with all aspects of law enforcement, security, and data storage, et cetera?
Sure, and this is not simply using the stock camera app on a smartphone. It's a very, very sophisticated piece of software that we use. Many states out there, Minnesota is an example, that deems all body camera footage to be CGIS data. So we had to submit our whole network configuration to the what they call the BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in Minnesota, to check. But then on the FirstNet side, the application itself went through this certification process, which included not only a review by the AT&T network engineers, but a third party. We had to submit our source code to a third party for them to scan for vulnerabilities or issues like that. And that's why, again, we're very proud of this FirstNet certification, to say that we've gone through all this additional rigorous testing. And again, the phrase rigorous is something that AT&T FirstNet used. We know it was rigorous, but obviously, they went through that as well. I'll just add one little note on the underwater IP68, which is most of these ruggedized phones are rated. A phone can be underwater for up to 30 minutes down to 6 feet. Exactly whether the network can stream, at 6 feet or not is dependent, obviously, on the network situation at that point in time.
Okay, and I have one more quick question for you, because I think it's one that will come up often when you're kind of asking your phone to multitask. What if you are videoing a scene and the phone rings?
That's a great question, and typically we get that question from iPhone users, because if you're videoing and you've got an iPhone and the phone rings, the video stops. That's one of the reasons, unfortunately, we only support Android. Not that we don't want to support iOS, but that's kind of a deal killer in the body camera world. So if you've got the video going, body camera video or live stream, if the phone rings, it does not matter. And actually, depending on the phone, you can actually, an officer, deputy, someone could take the phone call and the body camera would continue. So not an issue with Android being very multi-processing.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Hey, I want to thank you all so much. We're coming to the end of our webinar today. Thank you very much to all of our presenters. I thought that was extremely worthwhile information. Thank you for taking the time to put your presentations together and doing all the prep work involved in getting here today. We hope that all of our attendees enjoyed the webinar today and felt that it was time well spent. We deeply appreciate your participation. And again, we are the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, and we want to be your advocate for all aspects of FirstNet utilization. By being here today, you help support our efforts to continually bring you cutting-edge information about FirstNet, the nation's only fully dedicated mission-critical first responders network, and all aspects of the ecosystem that is being purpose-built to your advantage. Please visit us at our webpage at thepsbta.org for more information on the association, our upcoming webinars, and recordings of all of our previous webinars. In appreciation for your attendance today, you will receive a free membership to our association for 2020. Also, let your friends and peers know that by attending one of our webinars, it does include a free membership to the PSBTA, which is a $75 value, as a gift from us while we are all trying to navigate our current situation dealing with COVID. Finally, consider visiting allthingsfirstnet.com as well. Their team is continually compiling valuable information on FirstNet and the developing ecosystem. This concludes our webinar on scene support during public gatherings and unexpected behavior. Please join us next week at the same time for our webinar using technology to quicken life-saving care. Thank you.